Hey everyone, it's Lisa from Primitive Gatherings, and it's time to introduce you to Antique Autumn Chain. Now, Antique Autumn Chain is an antique quilt behind me, and this was the quilt that we put behind our backdrop when we did Pumpkin Spice Quilt-Along. And everybody loved this quilt, so I promised that we would do a pattern for it. So I just want to explain how to make it in this video because we're dealing with scraps. We're dealing with leftovers from the Pumpkin Spice Quilt-Along. So I want to show you kind of what that looks like. Now, just take a look at the quilt. It is very scrappy. They pretty much use what they had, which is very good for what we have in mind, using our scraps left over from the Pumpkin Spice Quilt-Along. But I want to point out there's something that kind of sticks out. See this middle? These middle blocks are kind of all the same. It uses only one fabric. Everything else is kind of really scrappy, and then they have them on the corners as well. So you can either emulate this quilt or you can make it however you want, but I just wanted to kind of point that out. It's always fun to see what people do, where they place color and things like that. All right. So I don't have the pattern with me right now, but that will be available for you as a download, or you can purchase it on our website if you want a printed pattern. We will have it both ways for you. Okay, so here are my scraps left over from Pumpkin Spice. And what I did is I just cut them into various sizes. There's only 2 sizes that we need to cut, and that will be listed on your pattern. So I just did that. I took my leftover fabrics and I just cut strips, and then I cut squares for the centers. And I probably overcut. I don't know. I didn't count. But because it's scrappy and I can either keep making it, I can make this quilt exactly how it is, or I can make some runners or some smaller versions of it as well. Because every time I decorate, I always think, oh, I wish I had a little something to put under that pumpkin or things like that. So leftover blocks are always nice to use for that certain thing. So if you want to make the quilt exactly as it is shown behind me, it is 65 by 85, and it is 13 blocks wide and 17 blocks long. That's piece blocks. There are some alternate blocks in there as well. All right, so we're going to cut these, and in the pattern I'll tell you how many you need to do the quilt. Then you can just kind of go from there if you want to overcut or not. And then here is my background. So here are my alternating squares, and then I have other pieces for the blocks, and then I want to show you this. So then we have some strips that are with the fabric, but then I cut them on the fold because I don't like to make strip sets that are 40-some inches long. I like to work with half of the width, which is 21, 22, depending on that. So there are the 2 sizes that I'm going to need for some strip cutting. I always make a practice block. So this is my practice block to make sure all of my sizes and calculations were right. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab some strips out of your scraps. And you can do this, like I said, random or planned. So if you want, I would stitch this one. So this is going to be a scrappy block. So on the wide one, I'm going to do orange. And on the small one, I'm going to do browns. So I'm going to stitch those like that. And then I'm going to pick out some squares to use. Now, each one of these strip sets is going to yield, I believe, 8 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 8 different blocks out of one strip set. So my large one, my small one, and then I'm going to need a square for each one. So each one of my blocks is going to have a different center in it. So see how I put a different center in each one of these? Even though they have the same, everything else is the same on the block. All right, or like I said, you could take each one of these and you can plan out that you want the same fabric on some of them. So I'll just go in here and see if I have that other print, which looks like right here, and I could stitch. So see how it's together here. You're going to cut it apart on the fold. And now I can stitch one side to that, one side to that, and then I could find that same center square and make some with all the same fabrics in it. So you can decide what you want to do with this. There are no rules, just have fun with it and make do. Use what you had. That's what they did. There's even some navy blue in some of these. So there's like a couple navy blue strips up there, you see that? But this quilt is really faded. I'm sure it was a lot brighter in its day. And of course you're going to want to starch all this fabric. You probably already have. You're going to need some more background fabric. So if you want to use the same background fabric that you had left over from the Pumpkin Spice quilt, you can do that. Or you can buy a whole brand new background if you don't have enough, because you know, you're just using what you had left over from that one. But I took a whole nother 6 yards of background to make this quilt. And then besides those strips, like I said, you had these little short ones that go on as well. So everything is very easy. You just have some decisions to make on how you want to plan your quilt, if you want super scrappy or some plan parts. But that's all you're going to need to do this quilt. It goes together really simple. Once you have these strip pieces made like this, I want to give you another little hint here that I just thought of. So when these are sewn, and you have those both sewed on there like that, I do a lot of mass stitching. So I'll sew a whole bunch of strip sets like this. And then what I do is I layer them. I don't cut each one of these by itself. I'll lay one, and then I'll put another one on top of that one and another one on top of that one. But I use the long lines to make sure they're straight. And then I will lay my ruler on, trim the end, and then start subcutting into the sizes that we tell you on the pattern to cut. So I want you to mass cut this. Just be confident that you know the numbers that you're going to cut at. So let's just say we're cutting 1 inch. We're not going to cut one. These aren't 1 inch. Okay, don't cut 1 inch. But let's just say, you know, we're cutting 1 inch. So if I have an 8-inch ruler, I'm going to cut 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like that. And then I'm going to move my ruler and I'm going to cut another 8. All right. But if the number is not 1 inch easy, like say it's like 1 3/4, right? You would do 1 3/4, 3 1/2, and then whatever that next measurement is, you're going to mark those down and put them on a little piece of paper or tape, so you know what your exact measurements are as you move your ruler across your strip set. Okay. So I hope this helps you make this beautiful antique quilt. It is fabulous. You all have good taste for wanting us to pattern this for you. And I'll be stitching on it because it is a really nice one. And we will put out a real pattern for it on someday. But right now we're just getting you through using your scraps, and 6 yards will be plenty. And then download that pattern or buy the paper pattern if you want, and you'll be all set to go to use up all of your scraps from Pumpkin Spice. All right. Hope you enjoy making this quilt.